Tom Bower just revealed some jaw-dropping stuff about Meghan and Harry that'll change how you see them. He had to cut entire sections from his book because privacy laws wouldn't let him publish them. We're talking personal details from Meghan's past that would have caused an absolute firestorm. But what he did reveal, it's wild. From secret website registrations to Hollywood fallouts, calculated exits, and stories that just don't add up. Bower's holding nothing back. Stick around because this is going to make you question everything you thought you knew. Before we jump in, hit that subscribe button and like this video. Trust me, you don't want to miss what's coming, especially revelation number 7. That one's going to shock you. All right, let's get into it. Get this, the domain lilibet.com got registered before the Queen even knew her great-granddaughter's name. Yeah, you heard that right. Here's how it went down. Meghan's team grabbed that website 2 days before the birth was even announced to the public. 2 days, they locked down the domain while the Queen was still in the dark about what they decided to name the baby. So after Lilibet was born, Harry finally picked up the phone and called his grandmother. He told her about the birth and dropped the news that they'd decided to call their daughter Lilibet, which was Queen Elizabeth's personal nickname, something really close to her heart. This wasn't just any name, it was deeply personal to the Queen, a name that carried decades of intimate family history. But where it gets interesting is how the Queen reacted to all this. She wasn't happy about how it played out, not at all. The BBC ended up reporting that Harry didn't actually ask for permission first. He just announced it. According to the BBC's reporting, Harry told them one thing, but that's not how it went down. And that caused a whole situation. According to Bower, there was frustration about how the whole thing was handled, and it led to this back and forth with the media about how it all went down. Bower's take on this, it was pure business, a calculated commercial move disguised as a family tribute. Think about the timing. Registering a website in the baby's name before the baby's own great-grandmother even knows what that name is. That's not sentiment. That's strategy. And here's what Bower says.
Asked for permission, he announced, and the Queen was utterly furious. When the BBC broadcast the story, saying that Harry wasn't telling the truth.
Harry wouldn't think this way on his own. Harry doesn't have a commercial bone in his body. He just doesn't operate like that. He's never been the business-minded one in the family. So who does that leave? Bower's pretty clear about where he thinks this idea came from. The domain registration, the timing, the whole setup. He sees Meghan's influence all over it. Website secured, business opportunities lined up, brand ready to capitalize on a royal connection through the Queen's own personal nickname. The Queen welcomed Meghan into the family with open arms, brought her in with genuine warmth, but the domain name got locked down for future business opportunities before a simple phone call to Grandma. The commercialization came first. The family courtesy came second. So here's something Bower claims that's pretty bold. Meghan never actually planned to stick around Britain. Like, not even for a minute. According to him, this was always about taking what she needed and heading straight back to California. The whole thing was mapped out from the beginning. Listen, Bower paints this picture where the strategy was crystal clear. Get the royal title, make those high-level connections, and then get back to California where she could really cash in on it all with that Duchess badge boosting everything. Britain was never the end game. It was just a stepping stone, a necessary pit stop to grab what would elevate her profile in Hollywood and beyond. You're marrying into one of the most famous families in the world. You're becoming part of this centuries-old institution. And allegedly you're already planning your exit before you've even really settled in. Bower describes it as calculated from day one. Not a change of heart later on, not a gradual realization that royal life wasn't for her, but a plan that existed before any of it even started. The Queen welcomed Meghan into the family with genuine warmth. She tried to make Meghan feel at home, brought her into the fold, gave her opportunities to find her place in the royal setup. But according to Bauer, while all that was happening, Meghan had already mapped out her departure. The exit strategy was in place while everyone else thought she was settling in for the long haul. Bauer sees this as using the royal family like a ladder. Climb up, get what you need, then kick it away once you've reached where you wanted to go. The connections made, the status gained, the global recognition that comes with being a duchess. Allegedly, that was the goal all along. Get in, grab the credibility and the title, then take it all back to California where it could be monetized properly. And Harry? Well, according to Bauer, Harry came along for the ride. Once Meghan got what she came for, Harry became part of the California plan too. They didn't leave together because both equally wanted out, the way Bauer tells it.
By the clue in the show, they don't understand that the royal family is the most important part of the British country. I mean,
Harry left because that's where Meghan was always heading anyway. So, according to Bauer's account, Britain was never home. It was a launch pad. The royal family wasn't a new chapter. It was a business opportunity with a built-in expiration date. The Queen opened her arms, but Meghan apparently already had one foot out the door. Now, this one's going to sound wild, but stick with me. According to Bauer, Meghan doesn't just admire Diana or respect Diana's legacy. She genuinely sees herself as Diana. Not like Diana, not inspired by Diana, but actually views herself as Diana's equal in the monarchy. Yeah, you heard that right. Bauer points to the 2018 Australia tour as when this really became obvious. Meghan showed up wearing Diana's jewelry. We're not talking about some small sentimental piece either. We're talking $300,000 worth of jewelry, including Diana's Cartier watch. That's a serious statement. And it wasn't just a one-time thing. There's this pattern Bauer noticed. Wherever Meghan goes, Colombia, Nigeria, various events, her publicists announce that she's wearing one of Diana's pieces. It's always mentioned, always highlighted, always part of the story. The jewelry becomes part of the brand, part of the image she's projecting. It's like she's trying to visually connect herself to Diana's memory every chance she gets. But here's where Bauer thinks Meghan and Harry got it completely wrong. Diana didn't just wake up one day as the people's princess. She earned that love over years of genuine work. People watched Diana grow up in the public eye. They invested time in her journey, saw her struggles, witnessed her dedication to causes that actually mattered to her. That connection wasn't instant. It was built through years of showing up, doing the work, being consistent. The public felt committed to Diana's journey because they'd spent so much time watching it unfold. They saw the compassion, the dedication, the actual commitment to making a difference. Those weren't photo ops or branding opportunities. That was real work that people could see and feel. Bauer argues that Meghan and Harry completely misread how all of that worked. They thought the jewelry, the visual connection, the Diana comparisons would automatically transfer that same love and devotion to Meghan. Like, putting on Diana's watch means inheriting Diana's legacy. But that's not how it works. You can't just borrow someone's jewelry and expect to borrow their life's work, too.
No, I choose people who don't want to be written about, on the whole, and whose lives are shrouded in mystery.
The qualities that made Diana who she was, the compassion and dedication that earned genuine public love, Bauer says those just aren't there with Meghan. Wearing the jewelry doesn't mean carrying the legacy. And thinking you can shortcut your way into that kind of devotion by making visual comparisons, that's misreading the entire situation. So, in Bauer's view, it's this disconnect. Meghan sees herself as Diana's equal, but the public sees someone trying to wear a legacy like an accessory. All right, so this story comes straight from someone who was actually at the 2017 Sandringham shooting weekend, and Bauer says it was a decisive moment. This is where things started going sideways with Harry's social circle. So picture this. It's a traditional royal shooting weekend at Sandringham. Harry's there with his close buddies, the guys he's known for years. Meghan's there too. And during this weekend, some of Harry's friends were making jokes that Meghan said were inappropriate. Whatever was said, Meghan didn't let it slide. She confronted them about it. Harry's friends started calling Meghan the fun police after that weekend. That nickname stuck. And according to Bauer, that weekend marked a real turning point in Harry's relationships with the people he'd been closest to. Bauer claims that from that moment on, Meghan pushed Harry to cut ties with his entire social circle. Not just distance himself a bit, completely cut them off. These were guys Harry had been close with for years, his inner circle, the people who knew him before all the royal drama and media attention. And allegedly, Meghan wanted them gone. Here's where it gets even more telling. When Harry and Meghan's wedding rolled around, none of those guys from the Sandringham shooting weekend got invited to the dinner after the ceremony. Not one.
And build her own new life in Toronto. And that meant even abandoning her new husband and obviously her father too.
The intimate dinner where Harry's closest people should have been, they were left out. That's a pretty clear message about where those relationships stood. Bauer describes this as the moment when Harry got separated from what he calls his hinterland. Basically his foundation, his support system outside the royal bubble. These were the people who kept Harry grounded, who knew him as just Harry, not Prince Harry. And they were suddenly out of the picture. Fast forward to now, and according to Bauer, Harry's really suffering from not having those connections anymore. He doesn't have that crew in London to fall back on, those long-time relationships that used to be there. The support system he built over years just vanished after Meghan came into the picture. So Bauer's painting this picture of Meghan as controlling and possessive when it came to Harry's social life. One confrontation at a shooting weekend spiraled into Harry losing basically everyone he'd been close to. The guys who'd been part of his life for years were suddenly gone. And in Bauer's telling, it all traces back to that one weekend at Sandringham and Meghan's influence over who Harry could and couldn't stay friends with. That's how Bauer sees it. A complete reshaping of Harry's social world, with Meghan calling the shots. Now let's talk about the Oprah interview, because Bauer went through this thing with a fine-tooth comb. He counted 17 different things that didn't add up. 17. That's not a couple of minor details getting mixed up. That's a pattern. One of the biggest ones was the whole secret pre-wedding ceremony story. Remember when Meghan told Oprah that she and Harry had this private, intimate ceremony in their backyard 3 days before the big public wedding at St. George's Chapel? Just them, the Archbishop of Canterbury, and their vows. Yeah, according to Bauer, that didn't happen. The Archbishop later clarified that what happened in the backyard was not a legal wedding ceremony. It was just them going over their vows. The official wedding was at St. George's Chapel, period. Then there's the conversation about Archie. Meghan brought up this discussion during her pregnancy about concerns regarding Archie and whether he'd get protection. The way she presented it in the interview connected these conversations in a specific way.
Utter one lie after another, not challenging her, as a fearsome interviewer crashed after that interview.
But Bauer says that's not how it happened. The timeline, the context, the way she framed it, he's saying it doesn't match up. And the St. George's Chapel wedding itself became a point of contention because of how Meghan described what happened versus what got confirmed later. It turned into this whole back and forth about what happened. Bauer argues that these weren't just innocent mix-ups or memory lapses. These discrepancies created an entirely different story. And here's why it mattered to him. This interview went global. It wasn't just some casual chat. This was prime-time television watched by millions of people around the world. And the things Meghan said in that interview shaped how people viewed the royal family. According to Bauer, these discrepancies affected how people saw the whole situation. Viewers came away with specific impressions about what Meghan went through, about how she was treated, about conversations that allegedly happened. And if those things didn't happen the way she described them, then a lot of people formed opinions based on information that wasn't quite right. Bauer sees this as Meghan crafting a false victim story designed specifically to gain public sympathy. The interview was positioned as Meghan finally telling her side, finally being able to speak freely about her experience. But if significant parts of that version don't hold up when you look closer, then what was going on? In Bauer's view, this wasn't about Meghan sharing her genuine experience. It was about creating a specific account that would generate sympathy, paint her as someone who'd been wronged, and justify the decisions she and Harry had made. The problem is, when you've got 17 things that don't line up, that account starts falling apart. And that's exactly what Bauer thinks happened here. So here's a story about what happened between Meghan and Edward Enninful, who's the editor of British Vogue. And this one shows a different side of how Meghan operates when she doesn't get her way. Edward Enninful already had a cover ready for an upcoming issue of British Vogue. He had his vision, everything was set. But Meghan wanted to be on that cover. According to Bauer, she tried to get involved, tried to influence what was happening with it. Enninful's response? Basically no. He didn't want her featured, and that was that. But Meghan didn't just drop it. She tried influencing the online content instead. She wanted input, wanted to shape how things were being presented digitally, even if she couldn't get the print feature. And Enninful shut that down too. His message was clear. You can't dictate this. That's not how this works. According to Bauer, that's exactly what Meghan was after, though. Total say over everything. Not collaboration, not input, actual command over the content, over how she was being presented, over the whole narrative. And when she couldn't have that, the relationship fell apart. And there's this journalist named Sam Kashner who worked with Meghan, and his description of that experience is pretty revealing. He said he felt manipulated. He felt betrayed. He felt played and orchestrated. Those are strong words coming from someone who was actually working with her directly. It paints a picture of someone who's very strategic about managing media relationships, down to directing how journalists should cover them. Then there's the British Vogue guest edit situation. Meghan was brought in to guest edit an issue which should have been this collaborative, exciting opportunity. But according to Bauer, Meghan acted like she was the actual editor-in-chief, not a guest contributor, not someone working with the team. She behaved like she was running the show. The real staff at British Vogue, they were silently frustrated the entire time. They couldn't say anything publicly, but behind the scenes, it was a mess. Later on, Edward Enninful dropped what Bauer sees as a pretty clear hint about the whole experience. He put it this way: I feel like I've done it and wouldn't necessarily repeat myself. That's editor speak for once was more than enough. He's basically saying he wouldn't work with her again if given the choice. Bauer interprets this as Enninful being completely finished with Meghan's prima donna behavior. The demanding attitude, the way she handled herself during the guest edit, it burned that bridge permanently. And for someone like Enninful, who works with celebrities and high-profile people constantly, to basically say he wouldn't work with Meghan again, that tells you how challenging that experience must have been. In Bauer's view, she wanted total command of everything, and when she couldn't get it, things fell apart. All right, Bauer's got two more things to talk about, and they're both pretty significant in their own ways. First up is Harry's Princess Diana documentary. Bauer's calling this project totally misguided, and here's why. He says Harry's working with seriously limited knowledge about his own mother. That might sound harsh, but Bauer's point is that Harry was so young when Diana passed, and a lot of what he thinks he knows has been shaped by other people's versions of things rather than his own complete understanding. According to Bauer, Harry carried this belief for a long time that paparazzi were responsible for what happened to his mother. That's the version he held on to. But Bauer lays out what the reports say happened that night.
his father, dumping on the king, the future king too, and also on his grandmother. That is extraordinary.
It was a tragic accident involving a speeding vehicle with an intoxicated driver, and nobody was wearing seatbelts. That combination is what led to the tragedy, not photographers chasing them. So when Harry's making a documentary based on this understanding that doesn't line up with how things went down, Bauer sees that as problematic. It's not just about getting details wrong. It's about creating content based on a misunderstanding. And in Bauer's view, this documentary becomes this weird mix of commercial motive and family disconnect. Harry's trying to profit from his mother's story while simultaneously getting key parts of that story incorrect. Now let's switch gears to something completely different. Meghan's appearance at Kevin Costner's gathering. This one's interesting because of the timing. Meghan showed up this year, made an appearance, got photographed, the whole thing. But here's what Bauer points out. Last year, she completely skipped this same gathering. Why skip it last year? According to Bauer, she was in the middle of promoting her Netflix series. She didn't want to look cheap by showing up to just anything. She was being selective, trying to maintain a certain image. And she also didn't want to be seen with Harry at that particular time, which is interesting in itself. But this year, she's there. And Bauer sees that as desperation for relevance kicking in. The Netflix series has come and gone. The projects aren't creating the buzz they hoped for. And now she needs to show up at things she previously considered beneath her just to stay visible.
But I do think they're convincing. I think that people will believe this confection produced by Hollywood.
Then there's what's happening with some of Hollywood's biggest names. According to Bauer, certain high-profile people in the entertainment world are keeping their distance from Meghan and Harry. And his read on why? They don't want to put themselves in an awkward spot with the royal family. Being seen too close to Meghan and Harry could complicate their own relationships with the royals. And for people who operate internationally at that level, those connections matter. So they're keeping space, staying diplomatic, avoiding any situation that might put them in the middle of family drama. So that's what Tom Bauer laid out in his book and interviews about Meghan and Harry. When you step back and look at all of it together, there's a pattern in what Bauer's describing. You've got calculated business moves like registering that Lilibet website before telling the Queen her great-granddaughter's name. You've got stories from the Oprah interview that Bauer says don't line up, 17 different things, according to him. You've got relationships that went sideways, from Harry's longtime friends getting cut off after Sandringham to Edward Enninful, basically saying once was enough when it came to working with Meghan. There's the Diana jewelry situation, where Bauer sees someone trying to visually attach themselves to a legacy without doing the work that built it. There's the Procter & Gamble letter story that Bauer says never happened, even though it's been part of Meghan's personal narrative for years. And then there's how things played out when Meghan wanted control over Vogue content, over narratives, over how she's presented in media. When she couldn't get that control, relationships ended. But here's the thing that keeps coming up. There's still that chapter he couldn't publish. Those personal details from Meghan's past that privacy laws wouldn't let him include in the book. He's hinted that those stories would have added even more context to everything else he revealed. Makes you wonder what's sitting in his research files that the public hasn't seen yet. The gap between the carefully constructed public image and what's described in his account, that's what's got people talking. Whether you believe his version of things or not, he's put together a narrative that challenges the story Meghan and Harry have been telling. And based on how he lays it out, that carefully built image starts cracking when you look closer at the details. So what do you think? Which one of these revelations shocked you the most? Was it the Lilibet website situation, the 17 things from the Oprah interview, or maybe that Procter & Gamble story? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I really want to know where you stand on all this. If you found this interesting, hit that like button and subscribe for more royal content you won't find anywhere else. We're diving deep into stories like this all the time. See you in the next one.